Brittney Griner is free at last. Thank goodness this young lady has been freed from the Russian prison system. So this report is brought by NBC News, and it says that WNBA star Brittney Griner released from Russian custody in a high-profile prisoner swap between the U.S. and Moscow. So President Biden has swapped a prisoner from the U.S. for Brittney Griner to be released from the prison there in Moscow. Now it goes on to say that Brittney Griner is free Thursday after the Biden administration negotiated her release from a Russian penal colony in exchange for an arms dealer. So Brittney Griner is free and she is set to be flown back to the United States. It says that President Joe Biden signed off on the trade, which took place in the United Arab Emirates, even though it meant leaving behind Paul Whelan, an American corporate security executive who remains jailed in Russia. So he was not able to negotiate the release of Paul Whelan. They would not give up this person. They did let Brittney Griner go free. It says that Brittney Griner's wife, Sherelle Griner, was in the Oval Office with Biden, and the two were able to speak with her by phone. And it goes on to say that Brittney Griner will be flown to a medical facility in San Antonio where she will receive care. So this is what is happening. Brittney Griner has finally been released. And it is said that this move marks one of the most high-profile prisoner swaps between Moscow and Washington since the Cold War, with the Kremlin seeing the return of Viktor Bout, who Russian President Vladimir Putin has been wanting to get back, and who had served 11 years of a 25-year sentence in the United States. So this guy, Viktor Bout, had been in prison in the United States for 11 years, had been sentenced to 25 years. So it goes on to say that Griner's return to the United States will cap a month-long saga that began in February when she was detained at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport after Russian authorities said they found vape canisters with cannabis oil in her luggage. So they found vape canisters, they're saying, with cannabis oil in it, not the cannabis itself, but with cannabis oil in her luggage. She was later jailed on drug charges. It says that the 32-year-old Phoenix Mercury player was the subject of prolonged and often public negotiations between the two countries. And from what I've heard, that a lot of Russians who have been charged with these same types of charges, they get off with a slap on the wrist, but not Brittney Griner. She had been sentenced 9 to 10 years in prison for this. So it says that Griner's release remarks a stunning turn of events from last month when she began serving a 9-year sentence at a Russian penal colony more than 200 miles east of Moscow. Says during her trial in July, Griner pleaded guilty, but said she had no criminal intent. Griner said the canisters, which she had been prescribed to treat chronic pain, were packed inadvertently as she hurried, prepared for her flight. So she didn't intend to bring those canisters with her, is what I'm getting for this. And it says that as her trial neared its end in early August, it became public that the U.S. put a prisoner swap offer on the table for Moscow to consider. Now this guy Bout that they exchanged, Bout was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison in 2012 after he was convicted of selling arms to Colombian rebels, which prosecutors said were intended to kill Americans. It goes on to say that the Kremlin has been demanding his release over the past decade, saying he was unfairly targeted. So this is a prisoner that was exchanged for the release of Brittney Griner, and Brittney Griner is set to be coming home. And a lot of Americans are happy about this, particularly her wife, and a lot of women, I am sure, in the WNBA are happy for her release. So this is what is going on. Brittney Griner has finally been released from the Russian prison system.